Today, in the media conference with Lal Goyal, which is brought to you by V4 News, Global TV, V4 Stream, Malnadu TV, News Gaon Se, Samvad Sarokar News, Organ Donation India Foundation and Gyan, our endeavor is to enlighten you about the current topic. And today, the current topic is Skill India a success? The future belongs to those who learn more skills and combine them in creative ways. Skill is the unified force of experience, intellect, and passion in their operation. I am a big believer in always challenging yourself, myself, and learning new skills. Skill India, or the National Skills Development Mission of India, is a campaign launched by Honorable Prime Minister Mr. Narendra Modi. It is managed by the National Skills Development Corporation of India. Skill India campaign was launched by the Prime Minister on 15th July 2015 to train over 40 crore people in India in different skills by 2022. UK has entered into a partnership with India under Skill India program. Virtual partnerships to be initiated at the school level to enable young people of this country to experience the school system of the other country and develop an understanding of the culture, traditions, and social and family systems. A commitment to achieve mutual recognition of UK and Indian qualifications was made. The recent systematic literature review conducted by Cabral and Dhar 2019 has identified the significance of skill development, wherein the implementation of such schemes mitigate poverty, utilize demographic dividend, socio-economic empowerment of underprivileged sectors, achieve economic growth, reduce social challenges, and economic inclusion. As far as institutional mechanism is concerned, the National Skill Development Corporation, NSDC, Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, and the scheme Prime Minister Kaushal Vikas Yojana, PMKVY, have resulted to achieve considerably results but not achieve the expected outcomes. The study argues the essential requirement of the skill development to achieve technology adoption and women empowerment in the country. Oracle on 12th February 2016 announced that it will build a new 2.8 million square feet campus in Bengaluru, where will be Oracle's largest outside of its headquarters in Redwood Shores, California. Oracle Academy announced to launch an initiative to train more than 500,000 students each year to develop computer science skills by expanding its partnerships to 2,700 institutions in India from 1,800 at present. Japan's private sector declared to set up 6 institutes of manufacturing to train people in Japanese-style manufacturing skills and practices, primarily in the rural areas. Japan-India Institute of Manufacturing, JIM, and Japanese endowed courses, JEC, in engineering colleges designated by Japanese companies in India in cooperation between the public and private sectors to be established for this purpose. In the budget of fiscal year 2017-18, the Government of India has decided to set aside rupees 17,000 crore, the highest ever allocation to this sector, in order to boost the Skill India mission. At least 10 million Indian youths enter the country's workforce each year, but the employment creation in India has not been able to absorb this influx, making increasing unemployment a severe problem. Though this allocation, the government's aims at generating employment and providing livelihood to the millions of young Indians who enter the workforce every year. The government has invested rupees 4,000 crores in the launch of Sankalp, a skill acquisition and knowledge awareness for livelihood promotion program, another big initiative under the Skill India mission. Though this aim at providing market-relevant training to 350 million young Indians. Apart from this, the government would set up 100 India International Skill Centers that will conduct advanced courses in foreign languages to help youngsters prepare for overseas jobs. It provides opportunities to the youth of India. Union Finance Minister Ms. Nirmala Sitharaman announced the allocation of rupees 3,000 crores for the Skill India program during her budget 2020 speech. With rupees 12,000 crore funding from the government, Prime Minister Honorable Mr. Modi's favorite skill development program has turned into a disaster. Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana PMKVY trained 41.3 lakh persons in first 3 years. Only 6.15 lakh of them have got job. The objective of this much publicized program is to provide industry relevant skill training that will help them in securing a better livelihood. The program was actually launched in 2015, but very soon it became clear that it was riven with all kinds of flaws. Private entities were giving roles of skill training centers. No track of their work was kept, and the whole thing looked like a wreck. Then the minister in charge, Rajiv Prasad Rudy, was unceremoniously sacked and the program was refurbished. It took the form of PMKVY 2.0. It is functioning through over 500 skill development centers spread across 485 districts. Training is provided in over 2,000 job roles, which range from electronics and hardware, apparel, beauty and wellness, agriculture, retail, logistics, leather, telecom, security, textiles and handlooms, etc., etc. There is partnership with industry. There is use of digital portals for coordination. There is background data on which state or industry needs how many skilled people or skill gap is there. In short, all the hallmarks of a modern management techniques imbued data-based IT-driven program of the sort that Honorable Prime Minister Modi so enormous of are present in PMKVY. Yet it has flattered and collapsed. There was and remains a fatal flaw in government's thinking, which is incredible if you really think about it. Skill will be useful only if there are jobs. No amount of skilling of people will help if finally they don't find a job. And we all know that jobs are scarce in India today. In fact, the failure of the skill program is a proof of that. The current data suggests that only 2.3% of the workforce in India has undergone formal skill training as compared to 68% in the UK, 75% in Germany, 52% in USA, 80% in Japan, and 96% in South Korea. Now, to discuss this very important topic, that is Skill India a success, we have a very elite, experienced, learned panel with us who are directly, indirectly connected with Skill India mission. I would like to introduce and invite my first guest, and he is Professor Dr. P. Subramania. Professor Dr. P. Subramania is the Vice Chancellor of Mangalore University. He is having more than 3 decades of experience in teaching, research, and administration. Professor Dr. P. Subramania did his MCom from Mangalore University in 1982, securing first rank with gold medal. He obtained PhD degree from Mangalore University in 1992 in the area of consumer behavior. He worked as professor, trainer, and consultant. He published 46 research papers in national and international journals of repute. He did postdoctoral research at Nottingham Business School, Nottingham Trent University, England, on HRD policies and practices. He also did a cross-national study of India and Britain under the Commonwealth Fellowship Scheme during 2001-2002. He received an international award entitled eLearn International Award 2003 from Scotland, UK for his best research paper on trends and status of corporate e-learning and Indian experience. He also received the prestigious Devang Mehta National Award for Best Teacher in Human Resource Management in November 2009. He is down to earth, ready to listen, and eager to implement. Welcome, Professor Dr. P. Subramania on our show. Professor Dr. P. Subramania, you heard the report which I read, and in that, very ambitious, very, I will say, very beneficial planning or the scheme that is called Skill India, launched by our Honorable Prime Minister. But the report also says that his scheme could not succeed. Report says, but we would like to know from you, is Skill India a success? Professor Dr. P. Subramania, please.
Thank you. Eminent panelists, respected Professor K. Shankaran, Father Salim Joseph, Dr. Gautam Goyal, and my esteemed friend Lal Goyal ji. You have posed a very relevant question. Is Skill India a success? But my answer is, it is neither a success nor failure, or to put it positively, sometimes yes, sometimes no, could be the most appropriate answer from my side initially. I was carefully listening to the overview presented by you. Yes, National Skills Development Mission of India, it is there, undoubtedly true. And the campaign launched by the Honorable Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Modi ji, on 15th July 2015. And this is managed by National Skill Development Corporation of India to train over 400 crore people in different skills, a variety of skills by 2022. Very ambitious, but not out of box anyway. And as you rightly pointed out, the Pradhana Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana, PMKVY, and I am very sure that there is a skill loan scheme and a Rural India skill program, and we have to empower the rural youth, especially the rural youth, by inculcating relevant life supporting skills for them. And as you really highlighted, the UK partnership, virtual at the school level should be there, and technology adoption and women empowerment must be the necessity now. And even the corporate sector, particularly the Oracle Academy, has taken up this issue in a big way. And I do appreciate the initiative of Japan India Institute of Manufacturing and Skill Acquisition and Knowledge Awareness for Livelihood Promotion Program called Sankalp, proposed to invest 4,000 crore in this. But ultimately, we are focusing on market relevant training to 350 million young Indians as swiftly as we can, and establishing what we call 100 India International Skill Centers, particularly to train or impart foreign languages so that we can prepare our youth for overseas jobs. All said and done, yes, it's wonderful, but the question is it successful venture? But we have to examine this issue at different levels or layers. To start with, it is conceptually very well conceived and very sound, because the concept of Skill India is socially desirable, economically useful, politically wanted, and morally defensible. Therefore, conceptually, it is well designed and well conceived. The second dimension is it operationally viable? Because nothing is impossible. As a government intervention, nothing is impossible. But the question is it viable? Is it financially feasible? Whether we are in a position to make things happen. But here, there are certain operational constraints. There are humps, there are potholes, there are toll booths, something like that, because something is holding us back as far as this mission or the vision of Skill India is concerned. Then the question is, there are 7 important elements to lay our hands on those things. The first one is, as highlighted by National Skill Development Corporation of India, India is rich in terms of human resources. But are they truly resourceful? The answer is no. What is the problem? The problem of skill deficit. It means what? There is the problem of de-skilling of human resource. It should be addressed properly and timely. The second element is necessity for reskilling. Why? Because the shelf life of these skills is always short-lived. You cannot permanently inject. Booster doses are required time and again. Therefore, reskilling is certainly an apparent measure required to tide over the contingencies at this current point of time. The third element is not only reskilling, but upskilling is required, because the youth must be able to upgrade and update their skill mix. So therefore, there is a need to upskill the already skills possessed by you. It means honing the existing skills while inculcating the time specific, market relevant new skills. So it means upskilling. The fourth element is skilling for tomorrow, because we cannot skill the youth for only the current requirements. The main vision or the mission or the objective is skill the youth for tomorrow, because tomorrow will never die. Tomorrow is always holding brilliant promises for you and I. Therefore, skilling for tomorrow. The fifth element is multi-skilling, because we want to make our rural youth or anybody multi-skilled, multi-talented. Therefore, we will not focus on only one specific skill, because there is already what you call list of skills designed and endorsed by National Skills Qualification Framework in India, based on the guidelines of United Kingdom's National Vocational Education Qualification Framework. So therefore, multi-skilling will be a reality. It should be there so that the youth can be engaged in what you call multitasking purposes. That's very much required. The sixth element where we have to focus is on what you call execution excellence. Plan, do, check, action. Because you can hire the service of a consultant to download or offload several plans. Planning is not a big problem in India, we have seen. But the question is execution excellence. We are developing cold feet here. Something is holding us back time and again, and we are not focusing the needed attention on this important issue, execution excellence. Make things happen in the way required in both letter and spirit. So execution excellence. The last element where I want to highlight at this point of time is continuous learning and development, because it is not one-shot affair. So it means we have to focus on the trainers, facilitators, assessors, then trainees, the mindset of the trainees, whether they are properly oriented and reoriented to consume the skills adopted by them. Then training needs assessment, whether it is done properly, systematically and scientifically. Most of the cases, we are missing links here. Then designing and developing the training material. For example, digital literacy skills are concerned, we are what you call striking the wrong nail at the right end of the table, or right nail at the wrong end of the table. Somewhere something is missing and troubling us again and again. Therefore, designing and developing will be very important. Then delivering the skills training program. Here also, there are certain missing links. Then called evaluation. It means, as you rightly pointed out, it is not the output. Today, we are focusing on outcome-based evaluation of all our skills training development programs. It means then another point which is haunting all of us now and again is transfer of learning from the place of skills training to the place of work or to their entrepreneurial destination. The point is there several missing links. Therefore, they are not able to sustain the knowledge acquired or learning acquired by them to the place of their activity, so that they can add value or they can create value. So that this is the problem. Therefore, ultimately, my problem is Skill India mission is certainly focusing on compliance. But for me, compliance is not important. We have to shun with what you call compliance seeking attitude, and we have to shift our attention towards commitment oriented approach. Therefore, outcome based evaluation make things happen both in letter and spirit. So such being the case, at this point of time, I don't want to take much of the others' time. This is my vision or my answer. It is partly yes, partly no. Thank you.
Partly yes, partly no, says Professor Dr. P. Subramania, and he has highlighted the plus points of the Skill India as well as the implementation part. He has given his views, and he says that he is partly yes and partly no as far as the Skill India success is concerned. I would like to now go to my next guest, and he is Professor Dr. K. Sankaran. Professor Dr. K. Sankaran is the Director of Justice K.S. Hegde Institute of Management, NITTE. Professor Dr. K. Sankaran is BTech Honors from IIT Kharagpur, PGDM from IIM Bangalore. He has done PhD from Kent State University, USA. He has several years of academic experience in India, US, UK, Middle East, and East Asia. He started his career with Tata's. He has several years of experience in management, consulting, and project management. Dr. Sankaran has widely published his articles in highly rated international journals such as Strategic Management Journal and Journal of Marketing Management and many others. Currently, Dr. Sankaran is researching in the area of higher education governance and andragogy. Welcome, Dr. K. Sankaran on our show. Dr. Sankaran, you have heard what Professor Dr. P. Subramania has said. Although he has not given a clear picture, he has given the picture, I will not use the word, but it's diplomatically, he says partly yes, partly no. But we would like to know from you, is Skill India a success? Professor Dr. K. Sankaran.
Well, it's always a pleasure to be on this panel, on this platform. Thank you very much for having me over here, Mr. Goel. And I'm indeed fortunate and blessed to be having such wonderful panelists here. And it's always nice to be with such, highly learned colleagues. I think Skill India project, I have not done a really formal study of whether it's been successful, but from what I have read and what I have experienced in terms of a surrogate of experience, some of my colleagues who were involved, I think it's been a failure. I think the reason to me, I don't want to dwell too much on why I say that, because I think it's pretty much established and well known. Yes, Dr. Yedipadithaya did mention about some of the successful things, and we do have some cases of people who have been benefited by this. Now, so I don't want to get into whether it's been a success or failure, but if you could permit me, Chairman Sir, to say why it is a problem, I'd like to proffer my reasons for this. I think the problem is lack of integration to me. As an academic and as a person who's been in management consulting, and I was on my own for about 4 years, I think the problem is just like in almost every aspect of our life in our country, the problem is with integration. Now, when I say integration, what I mean by this, what I mean by that is any purposive action requires skills, knowledge, and wisdom. The moment we separate these three aspects, I mean, these are interrogative issues, no? Like when you talk about skills, how do we do something? When we talk about knowledge, it's about what would we have to know to do the action? And then we are talking about wisdom is why. So these three questions need to be addressed in everything. Let me quickly come to an example. If it's just, let's say, a mechanical engineer or a technician is painting, how do I paint this surface? How do I use the tools that I have in my hand? How do I assess the surface that is being painted? Do I have the surface correctly? Have I done my mixing of the paint correctly? All these are how questions. Now, to develop on this, I need to know what. So what is the kind of solution that I use? What is the solvent that I need to use for this particular surface? These are things which essentially come from the experience, human experience, and it's there in the textbook. This is knowledge. At the wisdom level is the question of, why should I paint at all? Why can't I have a material that doesn't require frequent painting? I could use stainless steel, I could use some performance plastics, for instance. So what I'm trying to say is, in our country, we have divided everything. Now, this is a philosophical issue, and unless this philosophical issue is deeply questioned and answered, I think we'll not have an answer. So, my request to Skill Development Corporation is not to hierarchize and say that skill is for people who cannot handle knowledge and wisdom, and leave it to genuinely enlightened educators and people in society to kind of have it as part of the ecosystem. So I remember as an engineer, I went to IIT Kharagpur, and the only thing I remember, perhaps, I mean, with great respect to all my teachers for having me taught thermodynamics and strength of material and so on, thing that I remember most is how I spend my time in the carpentry, uh, in the workshop, how I spend my time at Smithy, sweating and in that heat, how I did certain things of which I was proud. I'm not a kinesthetic person. I'm a cognitive kind of person. That's why probably I gravitated towards university. But as I grow in age, I realize the importance of the emotional element. So I moved from kind of, quantitative subjects and statistics to things that are more philosophical in nature. What my students say theoretical. For them, everything is practical, it comes out with numbers. Doesn't matter who's creating that numbers, for instance. So what I'm trying to say is, unless we integrate this with uh, uh, the university, the places where we learn, and that university is also being questioned today. Now there is going to be, different kind of universities where all different kinds of skills have to come together, including emotional abilities and negotiatory abilities and so on, political skills and so on. I mean, that's a subject for another day's discussion. So what I'm saying is that we need to have our students enthused by certain understanding, a psychological understanding of human beings, and our aspirations are very high today. A person from the village has got very high aspirations. Unless we can show him that skill is likely to lead him to ask questions where he can actually develop knowledge and wisdom and be part of the university system and part of the, the knowledge field, we will forever be trapped in trying to say certain people are supposed to do menial work, certain people are supposed to be doing intellectual work, and so on. So I think the problem is integration at the level of wisdom, knowledge, and doing. So I would like to see Skill India deeply, deeply involved in a very, very, hands-on way with university, whereby an engineer, a mechanical engineer, indeed knows how to do welding. He indeed knows how to do smithy work, and he does, all the different things that a mechanical engineer is supposed to do. In this scheme of thing, skill is a skill. Teaching is a skill. A doctor going to the a surgeon going into the operation theater and cutting the human flesh and solving problems is a great skill. So we need to bring skill, knowledge, and wisdom on the same platform and get people to choose what they want to do. So I would like to very quickly, with limited time here, I would like to just quickly say how, for instance, I was reading and talking to a great scholar in Aurobindo philosophy. He says a doctor can be a researcher and he becomes a knowledge keeper. He can be a skill keeper by making sure that he's a great surgeon. He's also into skill. So everything is skill, and any purposive action has skill, as I said earlier, of knowledge, action, and wisdom. Now, we are not taking this into account. We are not taking the psychological makeup or disposition of the person at the end of the line. So we have to give opportunities for people to learn, and from their learning emerges true action, which is self-directed, and it can actually be, you have the feeling and you have the knowledge, all this come together. And I have noticed with my own limited experience, I mean, I'm saying limited in the sense, not with, policy making at the government level, but organization level, I find skills are developed across time through the right ecosystem, which includes a leadership which stands behind and not keep on saying, do this, but really give the space for the person to make mistakes and learn as they go. If you do that, I think our society is extremely good. We are a jugaad oriented people and we are an integration oriented people. That integration oriented, I'm saying jugaad in a good sense, that is not given expression by policies by the government. And I've been a researcher for the last 7 years on governance, and government is doing a lot of things today. NEP, for instance, there are many areas where good things are happening. I think skill requires a commitment from people at different levels, including the person at the end of the table who is not kind of branded as a menial worker or lowest in that rung. And I think that's what we should really look at. And as a university, as an educational institution, we are eminently suited to do this kind of work in a very, very serious manner, and not, consign us to simply regurgitating textbooks and so on. We are very, very practical people. And I think society has to recognize everybody as, capable. And at the end of the day, the psychological disposition of the person has to decide whether he is going to go into, industrial welding, or whether he's going to be a welding engineer, or he's going to be a researcher in welding. I think that's all. I hope I have, not taken extra time. Thank you very much. This has been a great opportunity.
So, Dr. Sankaran, according to Dr. Sankaran, thank you very much, Dr. Sankaran. But according to Dr. Sankaran, the Skill India is not success. Correct, Dr. Sankaran? If I will say like this.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay. Thank you very much. So, Dr. Sankaran has given all the reasons, which I'm sure that everybody has heard. I would not like to summarize that, but the crux is that according to Dr. Sankaran, the Skill India could not succeed. There are many reasons which we are going to discuss in the second segment. Now, I would like to invite my next guest. Thank you very much, Dr. Sankaran, for giving your views. My next guest is Father Celine Joseph. Father Joseph is the director of Unique Edu Skills International, Bethangri. He is MA, MSW, LLB, PGDCA, CELTA, IELTS, BPH, and BTH. I don't know how many more degrees he's having. So many degrees. Great. He has done CELTA from Cambridge University. A priest in the Catholic order, Father Celine is also a lawyer, research scholar, corporate communication skills trainer, British Council trained teacher, and IELTS trainer. As a well-known educationist, he has over 20 years of experience in teaching and has evolved a unique pedagogy of learner-centered teaching and personalized experiential learning. Welcome, Father Celine, on our show. Father, you have heard what Honorable Vice Chancellor Professor Dr. P. Subramania has spoken, as well as Professor Dr. K. Sankaran has spoken. And both have given the views. According to Professor Dr. P. Subramania, partly it's successful, partly it's not successful. And as per Professor Dr. K. Sankaran, Skill India is not at all successful. Now, we would like to know from you, is Skill India a success? Father Celine Joseph, please.
Thank you, Mr. Lal Goyal, for taking up such a wonderful topic for the discussion, and a very relevant introduction given, and definitely Professor Subramania sir and Dr. Sankaran has given enough stuff to introduce the whole concept to the brains of the people. And when you ask, is Skill India a success, I would like to convert a bit, saying that to what extent it is a success. First and foremost, I would say I am so grateful to the government, to the Prime Minister, and whoever designed and worked behind this concept of Skill India, not for the success in the operational level, but that is the reason why this platform and many other platforms are discussing this particular relevant topic. So creating awareness in the public about the need of skills training, I think is the foremost thing that Skill India has brought in. This awareness, okay, skills training is relevant, it is needed, it should be the focus. All this part of mental focus is given to this. So that I acknowledge as a great success of this particular concept or program, Skill India. To say the next step is to what extent it was successful. If you take the parameters, the vision and mission, as already Professor Subramania sir has put it clearly. What was the vision? To say whether something is success, we should know what was the vision and how was the mission carried upon. So vision was to train 300 million youngsters between the age of 15 and 29 in India. What happened to that training? And it could not succeed anywhere near even 18%. But then we'll definitely look into those 18% or less who are trained. As it is already mentioned, in India, we have only 2.3% formally skilled people who are formally trained in skills. Out of 2.3%, 33% are jobless today. So the purpose of Skill India was to make the students industry oriented or job ready, potentially employable at least, if not employable, at least potentially employable. The scenario in 2015, when Skill India was thought of, the potential employable students who were candidates who were coming out of the campus in India was 16%. And today, even with the training, spending crores of rupees into Skill India project, that has not improved. Even though those who are trained in Skill India, 36% of them are unemployed. And they could not get employed because they are not employment ready. So ultimately, what I feel, the concept behind this skills training, as I understand, is not making the students what to think, but how to think. Focus has to be shifted from what to think to how to think. Most of the time, even in skills training, we are teaching the students what to think. This is a particular job you have, this is the industry, and industry influences the whole thing. And Skill India visions that people should be industry ready. What type of industry? Do we consider village industry as an industry in India? Pottery, carpentry, all these things? So what should be the focus? Is it only the industry in the sense of the corporate industry? So there we have faltered a bit, I believe. However, gearing up on this industry-related training, first of all, there should be a particular survey, a scientific survey, to create a single database in India, categorizing the youth into skilled manpower and unskilled manpower. That should also take into consideration, the survey also should take into consideration the employer needs. What do the employer requires? What do they need? So the structure of the syllabus should be based on that. Unless we are not sure what is the need of the day or in the coming days, as regarding upskilling or skilling for tomorrow, we should know where the industry is moving, where the world is moving. But as of now, we are dependent on the ITIs or existing institutes, whereby we create more of enrollments. The challenges the Skill India faces now is lack of enrollment, the greatest challenge. That is a result because there is no employability in the people who are trained. That's because we aren't sure. We haven't done a proper survey to know the needs of the employers and the needs of the job industry, what skills are required. So I feel in this situation, to build the gap between industry and the campus, or the job and the training, we need to get into such a scientific survey and create a single database for the nation. And also we should be able to network with the existing system in the universities and upgrade the syllabus so that we give focus into vocational and technical training. If you take into separate training programs, Skill India, without networking with the existing systems or the NGOs or the universities, the AICTE and the UGC, all this should be able to collaborate together and upgrade the existing syllabus. So ultimately, Skill India, to a certain extent, I appreciate it for the great contribution it has created in instilling into the people, the academicians, the teachers, the students, the need of the hour, the skills training. So the focus is oriented toward that. And definitely we know awareness is the first step to the solution. So that part, directly or indirectly, is a very big success, I must say. But in the operational area, if you look into the vision of this particular Skill India program and the mission it has carried out from 2015 to today, it has not reached anywhere close to its aim, its intention. So that has to be looked into. And definitely, I feel this is what I feel. Today, let's think positively. And to a certain extent, we have succeeded. But we need to correct ourselves and get into scientific ways of correctional, procedural, operational patterns where we can reach the real vision, the golden mission of Skill India. Thank you.
Thank you, Father Joseph. And Father has also taken the same stand as of our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor P. Subramania. According to Father, vision was very good. It's a very noble idea which is supposed to be there, because in India the percentage of the trained or the skilled person is very, very less. That is 2 point some percentage. But implementation on the grounds, according to Father Salim, it's failed. But he says the mission of this particular thing has created an awareness, which is a very, very positive thing. We will discuss in the second round with Father about this aspect also. Thank you very much, Father, for giving your views. So now we have three views. According to Professor Dr. P. Subramania, partly successful, partly not. According to Professor Dr. K. Sankaran, not at all successful. Father Salim said, yes, it is successful for creating the awareness, but implementation part is not successful. Now we are going to the next guest, and next guest is a guest who is involved in the skill training program himself, because he's, I will just invite and I will introduce so we will understand. I invite now my next guest is Dr. Gautam Goyal. Dr. Gautam Goyal is the Managing Trustee of Gyan Educational Foundation, Uttar Pradesh. He is the member of UP ITI Association. He is the patron of Aligarh ITI Association. He has done BE Mechatronics from Nanyang Technological University, Singapore. He has done MSc in Aerospace Materials from Sheffield, UK. He has done PhD from Technical University of Delft, Netherlands. Welcome, Dr. Gautam Goyal, on our show. Dr. Goyal, you have heard the earlier panelist, our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Dr. P. Subramania. You have heard Professor Dr. K. Sankaran, and you have heard the Father Salim Joseph. And they have given their views. As I already mentioned, two of them says partly successful, partly not. But Professor Dr. K. Sankaran says not at all successful. You being, because you are running two ITIs colleges yourself, and you are involved in this Skill India because you have implemented the Skill India. And I was told in your profile earlier that you have trained about 2,000 students under this Skill India mission. Now, we would like to know from you, is Skill India a success? Dr. Gautam Goyal, please.
I'm very happy that I'm here amongst all the eminent personalities, dignitaries. I'm a very old fan of Professor Subramania. I'm very grateful to Dr. Sankaran. I'm getting introduced to Salim Joseph Father for the first time. Thank you so much, Mr. Lal Goel, V4 News, Global TV. I think all of us are trying to bring about some change, positive change in society. I think it is very tough to say whether it is a success or failure. I will just say that we are always continuously improving. So I don't think the ecosystem can be described as a success or failure. Yes, schemes have been introduced. There have been some parameters of success that we had defined. Maybe we do not meet those parameters the way we should have, and maybe there is some scope for improvement. So we should always look towards the future. I would like to thank the government that they realize that there is a change that was required in Skill India. So that is why they have revamped the scheme again. The PMKV1Y, the first scheme that had come out some time back. PMKVY2 came. Now we are expecting PMKVY3 scheme to come out anytime soon. So all the faults and the problems that were faced in PMKVY1 and 2 scheme will now be resolved by this new scheme, hopefully. I think the problem lay in the execution of these projects more than the ideas, the thoughts, and the aims and goals of the project. Where did we fail? I think there was a very big disconnect between what we aimed for and what was implemented on the ground. So I would like to blame squarely the officials, the bureaucracies that were at the middle who were implementing the scheme. I think there is some improvement that can happen. lot of so basically the PMKVY2 scheme was a centrally sponsored, centrally managed scheme. That means everything was being managed by the people in Delhi. So for someone in Delhi to expect someone in Aligarh or someone in Hathras or someone in small areas to be responsive to the ecosystem, it was not very easy, and it was all done in a very short time frame. So there was no time for the ground people to react to what was happening in Delhi. As a result, the scheme came, the scheme passed, money was distributed. We could not, the children was skilled to a certain extent, but the results were not there. There were some connectivity issues. It was Aadhaar enabled attendance system was present, but still sometimes we could be onboarded on it. Sometimes we were not onboarded on it. Then there were some malpractices, other malpractices. Some students were enrolled when they were actually not there. Some students sat in the exam, but they were not the real students who were supposed to sit in the examination. So all these problems were there. What we have heard of this new scheme that will come, it will be centrally sponsored but state managed. So if you notice in our Rajiv Bhavan or Vikas Bhavan, at least in Uttar Pradesh, we have all the district officials who sit there, from the collector, district magistrate to the lower ranking officials like the CDO, like the DFO, forest officials, the district social welfare officer, the district skills officer, which has been introduced. So that this will become the job of the district skills officer to monitor the implementation of the scheme on the ground. So there will be a connect between Delhi and the small districts and Lucknow. So this is what was required. So what I've heard is that the district skills officer will play a very important role in ensuring that the schemes are properly implemented on the ground. There will be less problems now, because all our problems will be communicated correctly to Lucknow and Delhi. So I think going forward, this scheme is going to be successful. Other than the PMKVY scheme, also what is there is that we in the UP state we have a Deen Dayal Upadhyay Gramin Kaushal Yojana, which is a state sponsored, state managed scheme. So that is already running in various districts of UP. Whether that is a success or failure, I will not talk about because I have no experience about that scheme. But that is also running. Other than that, in the ecosystem, skill ecosystem, there are also industrial training institutes which cater purely to industrial requirement of India and abroad. So they can only function as one part of the skill ecosystem. Other than that, NSDC also acted as a funding agency, and they were giving loans at very low interest rates to any entity which was ready to develop the skill ecosystem in that area. So a lot of targets were set. There again, there were some problems. The last we have heard is that NSDC has been disbanded, and now there is a new agency that will come up anytime soon. So hopefully that will also be a better shift, because the NSCC became very old and they primarily then became a funding agency more than developing the ecosystem. Also, I would like to talk about more developed countries where skill ecosystem is highly developed and very successful, like Germany and Switzerland. They have a dual training system where the student only studies in the training institute for maybe 3 months, 6 months, after which he goes to an industry for 1.5 years, 6 months, 1 year, and he does an internship. He gets paid for it. So that is a dual system that we should be adopting. In ITI, this system has been promoted, and now we are going to see the system come up in the next year and so. ITIs, which are only training institutes, will now become training institutes for only a certain part of the degree of the ITI certificate. But the remaining, they will have to work in the industry. So we hope that there will be more of a connect between these training institutes, ITIs, and the industries. So there again, I think we will be successful. In college and schools education, also the NEP, if you notice, they have introduced, they have given NSQF levels. So it is also possible that after 1 year of graduation, you can take a break and you can do another, you can work for 1 year and then come back in the second year and finish your degree in the third year or fourth year. So this is a very positive move by the government, and hopefully this will bring about change. Hopefully, this whole system will be on the internet. That means that you can, like, for example, I am a student and I am not at the mercy of my local university. The credit system should go all the way to the central system, so that after first year, if I leave my university for a course in BA, for example, I go and work for 1 year and then I come back because due to money constraints I have to work. I come back to complete my degree in the next 3 years. So all this should be recorded in a central server, not maintained by the local universities. The local university should have access to the central server who can get the credits of that student and then continue the student. So a lot of backlog which is pending at the university levels due to degrees, certificates, enrollments, some wrong enrollments, Aadhaar is not complete. All these things backlog will be then finished because now we are a IT powerhouse. So all these things can go on the IT server. So we can leapfrog even the West in doing so because when we have to press the reboot button, might as well press it and jump leapfrog the West. So ITIs are already in the state of improvement. There are entities which are interested. They can get funding by central agencies for developing ecosystem. If they think that we can get this course and these students will be trained and this will result in employment of these students in India and abroad. Thirdly, there'll be a central server in which in college education between that they can take a break and do an internship maybe. And so there are a lot of things that are happening. Then there are NTP. Then there are also certain other agencies like the RDITs, like the CTIs, which are also doing short-term courses. There is also MSME and NSIC, which also performs short-term courses. So all of these are part of the ecosystem, and there is improvement everywhere. So I am not at all negative. I am all positive. I think that there is a lot of improvement that is happening, and if we are connected, then there is no problem. But these schemes and these things should be more articulated to the people on the ground. And I think that there are already employment offices in every district, but everything should go online in certain aspects that any student, maybe say in Aligarh, he can get a job in Rudrapur. So there should be a central server for it, not just district-wise data, it does not get updated regularly. There are employment probabilities in other states that students can move also because we are one market. And lastly, I would like to say that our students can also get jobs abroad in the Middle East because there are huge opportunities in the Middle East, in Gulf countries, other Gulf countries, in European nations because European nations are aging. They are ready to take Middle Eastern refugees and make them immigrants. But what about our students who are trained in India with maybe a little bit of dual training system, so they have some industry experience, a little bit of German education or German language or maybe Dutch language, Nordic languages. So they can also migrate abroad. So our people who have they can also go abroad. So there are innumerous opportunities for any entity who wants to venture in the vocational education space. College education and university education are also up for some change. The NAP emphasizes that in school education also there will be some opportunities for internships and for vocational education will be introduced part of the curriculum. So we will see a very positive change in the future. So I am very positive and I wish everybody all the best. And the government is working definitely in the right direction. And we are with the government. And let's support our students, our trainees, our regions, and we can do wonders. We can build Taj Mahal again. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Goyal. You are not only diplomatical, but I think you are more political. You have not given the proper answer which I have asked. The question is Skill India a success? You have given all the details, but you have not given the straight answer to me. No problem. In the next round, I am going to take out the answer from you. Now, I'm going to thank you very much, Dr. Goyal, for giving your views. Although you have given the details how the students are doing now and how the things can be changed, but the question is still remain the same. I will now go to the Vice Chancellor, Professor Dr. P. Subramania. Professor Dr. P. Subramania, when the Skill India was launched in 2015, and today we are in 2020, and rather we are now entering in 2021. So say after 5.5 years or 6 years, and we are discussing this point. You remember we discussed about the National Education Policy 2020, and you were very much positive about that. How we can think when we cannot succeed in this particular area of Skill India, how this new education policy 2020 is going to succeed, which is going to be a mission of 2035 and 2050 we are talking. And if we cannot succeed this particular scheme, which was not as large as of new National Education Policy 2020, and you are being associated with both of the policies. We would like to know, because one thing is very clear, whatsoever you people have given the views, but the ground reality is the Skill India is not at all successfully on grounds. Yes, mission is good, vision was good, morally, talking, bouquet, everything is good, but practically not successful. So we would like to know whether the same fate is going to happen with the National Education Policy 2020 as what happened with Skill India, Professor Dr. P. Subramania?
Yes. Uh, the point to be noted here is there are two key challenges. The first one is mindset of the people. When I say people, it includes you and I and everybody, the public policy makers, the bureaucratic people, the politicians, the teachers, students, alumni, everybody, the society at large. So mindset, normally mindset will say no, suddenly we'll jump into conclusion, we'll make premature judgment, or sometimes we will be made to believe through certain reports which may be generated and regenerated. There may be concocted stories, cocks and bull stories, so many things. That is one thing, mindset. I am an optimist. I will always say that, uh, don't think like it won't work. Your challenge should be how to make it work with an open mind, because otherwise we will slip into what you call disengagement, cynicism and skepticism, which will do more damage than any good to take this mission further forward. That is one thing. Another challenge is certainly we do agree that implementation, because here half-hearted implementation, tardy or slow implementation, or non-implementation, or piecemeal distribution, or implementation only in letter, not by spirit. Therefore, there are several things. Therefore, my earnest appeal to all of you is that never treat the symptom but the disease. Number one. Second one is never throw the baby along with the bath water. If we are suffering from headache, and one fine morning, we'll get a report saying that this head is not good, that's why it is aching. So it means we'll make symptomatic treatment, it won't work, cut off the head. That may not be the thing. Therefore, never throw the baby along with the bath water, retain the baby in the tub. You waste, only throw the wastewater. Because here, to make things happen, three things are very important. CW is equal to success. It's a partial failure. Why? Because C means capacity. It includes two things, knowledge and skills. Then W, willingness, it refers to again two things, our attitudes and values. If we are holding on to a positive mental attitude, and if our value system is no pains, no gains, we should invariably make things happen, then of course we are moving towards that. Then O is nothing but chance to learn, chance to get ourselves inculcated with the requisite skills, then chance to perform. That's opportunity. But it's a multiplicative model. C multiplied by W multiplied O is equal to S. If any one of the three elements is zero, success will be zero. That is the major reason for all these things. Therefore, education, employability and employment. Most of the time we focused on education and employment, not employability. Therefore, New Education Policy 2020 is giving more emphasis to employability. Of course, as rightly pointed out, it is linked to the skill development process, theory, research and practice. There is a strong disconnect among the three. We have to connect it. And the punchline here, the final punchline is 8 words. It means earn your livelihood to lead your life gracefully. 8 words. 2 keywords are life and livelihood. Therefore, if we want to make our life meaningful and impactful so as to lead a very graceful livelihood, then skill development and Skill India mission must be successful. We have to make successful, not one or two. It is the joint and collective responsibility of each and every one. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Dr. P. Subramania. It's a responsibility of everyone. But after all, this is a mission taken by the government, and the government has to see that it should be implemented properly. and it's a failure of the implementation. We have discussed about the we have discussed about the National Educational Policy 2020 is implementable or not. This is the biggest challenge which we are facing now and then. Okay, now I would like to thank you very much, Professor Dr. P. Subramania, for giving your views. Now I would like to go to our next guest, and he is Father Saleen, because I can see that even Dr. Sankaran, I think some problem in the technical problem. So I will go to Father Saleen. Father Saleen, you have said that about the awareness. By spending 12,000 crores to create awareness, one. Secondly, you said no proper survey was done. So do you think that this type of such a huge vision or mission or a program was done unprepared, and they have launched it to satisfy somebody's whims, or it was done properly but not implemented properly because of the unwillingness of the bureaucracy, unwillingness of the teachers, universities, or whosoever is involved in this particular? I'm not expert in this, but you can very well enlighten us. Otherwise, to put the 12,000 crores in drains, because you know very well, everybody knows the memory of a person is very short. Whatsoever awareness you have created, it is not going to last. We have every day new news are coming. Media is talking about every day changing a new current topic. Nobody is talking about Skill India. They have forgotten. Until unless, as Dr. Goyal has mentioned, that now PKMY, that 3O is going to come. Then again you are going to infuse 3, 4, 5,000 crores. So is it worth to do it, or we have to think very, very seriously with involving all the stakeholders and then only come out with the 3O things? Father Saleen, please. Please unmute. Please unmute.
Yes.
Yes.
Sir, as you rightly said, taking in confidence all the stakeholders, definitely that's a key here. One of the keys, definitely, I must say. And as regards the 12,000 crores you are speaking about, you might have read in the newspapers in 2017 in PMKVY program, around 5,000 crores corruption was unearthed. So definitely, Indian system is that. Recently, one thing I wanted to tell you, recently, as I was addressing about 36 principles of the campuses regarding new education policy of our managements, like I tell you, almost 99+% principles were negative about national education policy. And they bluntly told me, Father, you are the first person we are seeing who is positive about the new national education policy. Then I told them an example, the way maybe before Professor Subramania sir came here, to get some leniency in the whole structure of the degree education. I was discussing with the former Vice Chancellor and the Registrar and Assistant Registrar in Mangalore University. And I know it was a hard step to get some leniency, because I know the system, they can't even go away from the system. So what happened with all the considerations, I could find one batch at least of the students giving all the attendance, everything, to put into this new education policy model, which even Dr. Shankaran sir has experienced personally. He knows it. So what I'm telling here, what I told them, the principle is this: if you ask national education, is Skill India possible? Is national education policy possible in India? Not possible, I say. But I told them it is possible for me and for you. If each principal thinks rightly and he wants to execute it in his campus. So the principle I gave them is this: first, I start with me. I have to get into it, then you have to get into it, then we have to get into it. It's not, India cannot do it. I'm damn sure it cannot be executed by India. It can be executed by me in my campus or with the students whom I am involved. It can be done with Shankaran sir, who is trying to do his level best, and definitely Subramania sir, and each one. That's the way. And to say the corruption aspect of it, it's all in the whole system. So you cannot change from the top. To change the system, you cannot say India has to be changed. No, I have to be changed. My students, I have to influence my students, my surroundings, my campus. And I am damn sure with my experience, more than 2 decades, with my students, and I have taken up the challenges in all the areas as you know it. And I have seen that students can tune themselves into it. And I have connected with so many multinational companies who were crying even recently with one of the discussions with the MNCs, the vice president. He was telling his father, we are not able to recruit at least 20% of the applicants. Even if you recruit 20%, we are not able to retain more than 6% at the end of the first year. It's a painful thing because they are spending a huge amount on the intake programs, intake training programs. So what I'm saying here, the whole thing, when we look at it, I definitely must say, all the stakeholders should be taken into confidence. That is from the higher level, but I would like to think from the grassroots level. Let's start now with me and my surroundings, my campus. Definitely new education policy is the dream thing which I was looking for. That bit of freedom for the campus, where we can give them some professional training, where we can give them some internship, where we can equip them for job-related skills. That was the thing which I was begging from the university and from the authorities everywhere. And that is being given by the national education policy. That's enough. That's enough for me. That's what I say. So definitely, let's start with I. I can do it. You can do it. And we together definitely can do it.
I can do it. But one thing is very clear, Father, you have admitted, although not openly, but yes, your talks have given the clearance that the Skill India, it could not succeed implemented at all. That is what the purpose of the discussion is. This program is to come up with, see that what are the realities. We are not talking superficially. We are not against or for anybody, but we want that to create the awareness so that not only the students or the future generation, but even the officers, the bureaucrats, even the government, the policymakers should understand what are the lacunas, so things can be changed for the benefit of the society and benefit for the nation. Now I would like to go to Professor Dr. K. Shankaran. I think he has joined. Professor Dr. K. Shankaran, are you there?
Yes, I'm there.
Okay,
sorry,
fine. I understand. Professor Dr. K. Shankaran, you mentioned about doctors. And
Yes.
you say it's a very, very sophisticated and very skilled thing to perform a surgery.
That's correct.
Professor Dr. Shankaran, you might be knowing the recent media reports where the Ayush, all those doctors who are either a homeopath, electropath, or other pathy, which has never touched a, done a surgery of anything, are now allowed by the government of India, the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, to perform the surgery. Now, it means that tomorrow an IIT engineer can do the surgery, and a medical student or the medical doctor can design a bridge and the roads. Is it, according to you, this is Skill India or not? Dr. Shankaran, please.
Yeah, it is not, this is not Skill India. I think skills are extremely important. But my point is this, Mr. Goel, that is the government and me, for that matter, as a person in a position of leadership for my modest institution, there's a limit to which I can influence bad things not happening and good things happening. That's what we are trying to do. So what I'm saying is power has got a limitation to prevent wrong things from happening. But power cannot actually make good things happen. So if I want to get the best out of my students, I can't use my power. I must use my good sense in being a good, within inverted commas, parent, where I bring in my emotions and my head. So skill is something, especially in our charged social structure in our country, skill is a very, very delicate subject. So this skill has to be done by people who are fundamentally kinesthetic in nature. So we cannot really have people doing the skills just because they didn't get the opportunities they ideally should have got. So what I'm trying to say is, I mean, very simple actually. I'm skilled. It has to be trendy. Skills have to be trendy. We need to probably pay more to people. We need to be kinder and gentler, and we really have to be less evaluating, judgmental in the universities. I have had MBA students who got skilled in call centers, also had lateral entry engineers coming into MBA program. on the surface of things, they are not doing great jobs in the classroom because maybe they don't understand mathematics. The engineers who entered laterally, though they are engineers, their skills in mathematics and statistics may be low. Similarly, a person who entered through the call center may not be good in, writing exams, but that person is really good in dealing with customers. So I always highlight such people. And when I was in places where we had great choice in choosing people, I used to say, even if they're a little not so good in their CAT examination, let's take these people. So what I'm saying is we have this extreme judgmental view of things, and we judge the person even before we see the person from whatever background the person has. So for instance, I used to tell, please don't judge me from which institutions I went to. Not because I respect IITs or IIMs and all the great institutions. I have great respect for the individuals there. I think we have wonderful, wonderful teachers like the persons on this panel. Uh, and I'm not just saying it, for the sake of it. But I'm sure all these people are actually working at 20% of their capacity. So we need to change that ecosystem. That ecosystem changing requires for us to fundamentally ask questions and call spade a spade and say, this is wrong. And I think if we do that, we are the best teachers, we are the best students in the world. And I've taught people, I'm fortunate to have taught people from, United States to Hong Kong. I was in an evening program in Hong Kong. I used to go there. 2 years, I went at least 4 times every semester. I have noticed that Indian students are great, but they wilt under the, wrong influence of anybody. You give them the ecosystem. We are very social people, sir. But we think we are individualistic because the West told us we are individualistic because we have all kinds of different things for everything. But we are fundamentally a social people. So social aspect, if you take and create an ecosystem whereby there's no elitism. I mean, I can give so many stories which are very unpleasant.
Okay.
I don't want to do that over here. I mean, and government has a role to actually come out and say that, well, all the divisions we have created, if you take the psychological view, we will say that a person who's doing research is also skilled in thinking, but he probably is not skilled in working with his hands. But let's respect everybody. Now, I don't know exactly how to do it for others, but I think I know how to do it in my little space. I respect people who are karma yogis, who are jnana yogis. All of them have a place on the table. So my point is, this is a failure because we are not conceptualized, according to me, in a non-Western way, in a truly cognitive, emotional, cognitive sense, bringing all these things together and do things simply because psychologically we are very, very social beings, and we need to create an ecosystem where a person who is a welder is as important as a director who's directing this institution. I think that's my point, sir.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Sankaran. Say spade is spade. One should be very, very clear, says Dr. Sankaran.
Small point, sir. I think it's important to call a spade because I respect the individuals over here so much. I mean, I'm not just saying this panel, everywhere. They have the skills. So we need to call a shot and say, this is not okay. They're not being treated properly by all of us here.
Okay, thank you.
That includes me also in a regulatory sense.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Sankaran.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Now I would like to go to Dr. Gautam Goyal. Dr. Gautam Goyal, Father Saleen has mentioned something about corruption. Okay, now I would like to know from you, because you have a practical, you are dealing with you have dealt, not dealing. And I gone through the website of this, and I came to know that the government was paying about 15,000 rupees to the partner, which they have chosen earlier for per student. And I even came to know that out of 15,000, not the entire amount was transferred to the institutes. Can you just explain how much money was giving to the institutes like you per student? How much, what was because it was a legal contract. So there is nothing that anyone can hide. It's in public domain. I know the figure, but I want from you to say what is the thing. Then we will discuss about further. Dr. Gautam Goyal, please.
I can vouch for this. I have run a center for the last 2-3 years, and it depends on the trade. Some trades were 12,000 rupees for 3 months training. Some trades were 15,000 rupees for 4 months training. So it was all different. But let us say it is 15,000 rupees for a trade for 4 months. So the training partner, which was a small office in Delhi, he would become a training partner of NSDC. And then what would happen is that on the completion of on the enrollment, he would get 30% of the total 15,000 rupees. And then after he would pass, the student would pass out, he would get another 50%. And on successful placement by the training center on the ground, he would get 20%. So in that way, he would get his 100%. So most training centers, they entered into a civil agreement with the training partners that say 60% of the total remittance will be remitted to the training center. But the training partner, after they would get funds from the government, they would not remit to the training center. So as a result of which the training partners became very rich, but the training center running on the ground was very poor. He even put his own money to just complete the course. So many training centers, they shut shop and they were not ready to train, be part of the Kaushal Vikas Yojana. And training partners had many FIRs, complaints, police reports, everything lodged against them. And there were a lot of malpractices. So directly the training center should become a training partner
So
of NSD.
we understand, Dr. Goyal. That is why we want to know from you that what is the real reason. And now you have admitted that this is the real reason, which Father Salim has just hinted. It means the Skill India failed because the main reason was the corruption. And the corruption in a large scale. If a training partner is getting about 40% of the amount per student, this is something very, it's a scam. It's not a corruption. I will not term it as a corruption. It's a scam. I think we have to keep one more program. What has happened to Skill India scam? Because if 40% of the 12,000 crores, if we, or rather, he has corrected me, it was 2017. Now it might be about 15,000 crores or so. So it works out to be how much money has gone in the middleman's pocket for doing nothing. Because, and that's why the stories which has appeared in the media that there were shops where the board is lying there of a training center, but there is nothing there inside. And the shop owner says, no, there is nothing. It is just a shop. Somebody has come, they click the photographs of the board and they have taken the money. So corruption was done from all the sides, even the training centers, the training partners. And I can't say about the those who have given the award or the contract to the training partners or the training centers. So this is why the reason to say openly the Skill India failed to succeed because of the corruption. Dr. Goyal, you have said, no, it is a very, yes, good vision. We all admit, but whether the vision has implemented or not, where a child was shown moon, when a child sees a moon, very good moon, whether he can reach to that moon or not, that is a different thing. But if you just say moon is good and moon is not, you can't reach to the moon. Similarly, Skill India is very, very good, but implementable, not. So same thing which I asked Professor Dr. Subramania and all of you, in my opinion, what I feel, gathering from your views only, that Skill India, the vision was good, the motive was good, but the implementation was totally bad because one of the reason is corruption, the other reason is no proper planning, third reason is that no independence was given to the training centers, no stakeholders has been taken in confidence, because until unless all the stakeholders who are known the subject well would have given their views, and definitely this Skill India which is very badly required in India. See, 2.8% is skilled in India compared to 98% in South Korea, where we stand. That's why today's program, which you have seen, the viewers, is very, very clear that Skill India is a very good vision, very good mission, started by our Honorable Prime Minister, Mr. Modi. But the implementation, the middle persons, they have made it a disaster for the country, and our 15,000 crores rupees has gone to the drains as per the views given by all the experts, as well as it is in the media, which one can very well see if you will just go on your social media or Google, and you will find all the details are there. Thank you very much for joining us. And today's program has been live telecasted by V4 News, Global TV, V4 Stream, Malnadu TV, News Gaon Se, Samvad Sarokar News, as well as it was shown live on Facebook and YouTube. And tomorrow, as you all know, that tomorrow is a Sunday, and Sunday is a edutainment day where we give the education as well as with the entertainment. And tomorrow the program is with media conference with Lal Goyal at 10:30 a.m. is Surmai Sangeet, and my guest who is going to sing tomorrow, she is Miss Uma Kapadia. She is a trained professional singer from Mumbai. So please tune in tomorrow at 10:30 to listen this Surmai Sangeet media conference with Lal Goyal. And thank you very much, Professor Dr. P. Subramania. Thank you very much, Dr. K. Sankaran. Thank you very much, Father Salim Joseph. And thank you very much, Dr. Gautam Goyal, for joining and giving your views. I'm sure today's program enlightened the viewers also. Thank you, all the viewers, for joining us. Thank you very much.